My parents threatened, "Don't touch the trust fund." I smiled and asked, "Half a dollar each." My name's Allison Brooks. I'm 30, a freelance graphic designer in Boise, Idaho, and I never imagined a family meeting could feel like walking into a setup. Years of spotting lies, clients fudging budgets, or missing deadlines hadn't prepared me for this. When my dad texted about a quick family talk after my grandmother passed, I didn't expect my relatives to turn on me. As I parked at the Boise law office, the air felt heavy, like they'd planned something behind my back. My mom leaned forward, her voice cold. "You'd better never touch my inheritance." My brother smirked, waving a document like it was a winning card. They were sure they had me trapped, eyes gleaming with greed over what my grandmother left behind. I stayed calm, heart racing, letting them plot. What they didn't know, a little surprise my grandmother and I had set up long ago. I leaned back, curling my lip. "How shall we split it?" I asked. "Half a dollar each." Their laughter froze, confusion flashing in their eyes. Stay tuned to see how their plan completely unraveled. Drop a comment with your wildest family betrayal, or where you're watching from, and hit subscribe. You won't believe what happens next. As a kid in Boise's quiet suburbs, my world was shaped by my grandmother, Dorothy, a silver-haired woman in her late 70s with sharp wit and fierce independence. She ran a small business from her home, her dining room, a bustling workshop of yarn fabric and order forms for handmade scarves, quilts, and table runners sold at Boise's weekend markets. Having raised 2 daughters alone after Grandpa's death, she taught me resilience through her craft, her steady hands guiding mine to track expenses for cotton, thread, and wool. "Money's a tool, not a toy," she'd remind me, sharing stories of budgeting for her first car and sparking my drive to carve my own path. My brother Justin, 3 years older, was a lanky teen with a flashy grin and a talent for trouble. He saw cash as a way to shine, strutting in with new sneakers or a gleaming dirt bike, all funded by our parents. One summer, he smashed his bike into a neighbor's fence, leaving a repair bill high enough to rival a used car. Our mother, Nancy, meticulous and tight, smiled, dismissed it as boys being boys. Our father, Harold, gruff yet indulgent, would nod and hand him cash for essentials like custom sunglasses. Meanwhile, I mowed lawns to buy notebooks, their favoritism a quiet ache I carried. Growing up, I opened a savings account, stashing birthday cash and babysitting pay, following Grandma's rule, save half, spend wisely. Her sewing table, always alive with the hum of her machine, became my classroom in discipline. "Every sale's a lesson," she'd say, eyes bright behind her glasses, teaching me to balance costs and profits. I took on small design gigs, flyers for coffee shops, logos for local boutiques, saving every penny for the future. Nancy was quick to cheer Justin's fleeting ambitions, but barely noticed my work. Harold, who loved to brag about Justin's antics at dinner, paid my efforts little mind. Their indifference stung, but I poured it into long talks with Grandma, who'd smirk and say, "Focus on your own road, kid." Justin's spending only escalated. He dropped hundreds on concert tickets, custom rims for his beat-up car, or ski trips, all bankrolled by my parents' generosity. I'd overhear them in the kitchen defending him. "He needs confidence." Mom would insist, her tone gentle for him but sharp for me. Dad agreed, calling it a phase I thought, sorting receipts with Grandma. Her business was her defiance, proof she could stand tall without handouts. She'd tell me how selling quilts helped her buy her first home, her voice steady as her needle moved. Those stories didn't fill me with anger, they gave me resolve. When I grumbled about the bias at home, Grandma would hand me a spool of thread and say, "You can't change them, but you can shape your choices." Her lessons went far beyond numbers, teaching me how to face life's unfairness. My parents' favoritism pushed me to work harder, save smarter, and prove I didn't need their approval. In that dining room, surrounded by fabric and her quiet strength, I built a foundation they couldn't shake, ready for whatever came next. My parents threatened, "Don't touch the trust fund." I smiled and asked, "Half a dollar each." As I grew older, the unfairness in my family became impossible to ignore. One evening, my brother swerved his car into a neighbor's fence, splintering wood and racking up a bill that could have covered a semester's textbooks. Mom and Dad didn't blink. They raided the account I had built from childhood chores to cover his mess. "We'll pay you back," Mom said, her voice clipped, but the money never reappeared. I swallowed my frustration, the sting of betrayal sharp, knowing they'd never demand he take responsibility. His reckless spending only grew bolder. He'd roll into our Boise driveway, music blaring from a new car with shiny rims he couldn't afford. When he totaled another vehicle joyriding with friends, my parents emptied it again, claiming he was under pressure. Pressure. I was the one hustling at a local design studio, sketching ads for Boise businesses to fund my tuition at the community college. Every dollar I earned went to books, fees, or software, since I knew no one else would help. Meanwhile, Mom and Dad kept writing checks for his private school in Seattle, a prestigious program he barely showed up for, too busy partying. The imbalance deepened. I needed a laptop for my design work, a necessity for better gigs. I'd scrimped for months, but Mom took half my funds to cover his overdue rent in Seattle. "Family helps family," she said, as if I wasn't part of that deal. I stayed silent, jaw clenched, rebuilding with late-night shifts at the studio. During one of our craft sessions, Grandma Dorothy, her hands steady, pinning quilt fabric, saw my frustration. "They're picking their fights," she said. "You pick yours." Her words sank in, urging me to focus on my own goals, not their bias. Later on, I enrolled in Boise's community college, majoring in graphic design. I paid my own way, balancing classes with freelance projects, logos, posters, anything to stay afloat. My parents never offered support, too busy funding his lifestyle. He'd drop out of one course, sign up for another, each time with their backing, no questions asked. Once he ran up a credit card bill on a spring break trip and they cleared it, insisting he needed a break. I'd overhear them at dinner excusing it. "He's finding his way." My path apparently wasn't their concern. I lay awake, resentment simmering, but I poured it into my work, sketching designs until dawn. The final blow came during those years. I'd saved enough for a summer design course to boost my portfolio. Before I could register, Dad emptied what I had put aside to settle my brother's parking tickets, hundreds of dollars from reckless nights in Seattle. "You're responsible," he said, as if that excused it. Responsible? I was working double shifts, surviving on instant noodles while my brother partied without a care. I wanted to confront them, to demand fairness, but I held back. Grandma Dorothy's advice rang clear: control what you can. So I kept grinding, taking extra clients, rebuilding what they took. My silence was strategic, a quiet vow to never depend on them. Looking back, those years of being sidelined forged a resilience I hadn't recognized. Each time my parents chose my brother over me, it fueled my determination to stand alone. I learned to guard my earnings plan meticulously and let their favoritism drive me forward instead of breaking me. Grandma Dorothy's lessons, woven through those moments of unfairness, prepared me for the challenges ahead, arming me with a strength they could never touch. When Grandma Dorothy's heart condition struck, my world shifted. In my mid-20s, I'd built a steady freelance design career in Boise, juggling projects for local restaurants and startups. But when the hospital called to say she'd been admitted for heart failure, everything else faded into the background. I rearranged deadlines, pushed back meetings, and spent every spare moment at her bedside in Boise's main hospital. Her room smelled of antiseptic, her face pale but her spirit unbroken. She cracked jokes between coughs, insisting I sketch her looking heroic on my tablet. Those moments watching her fight deepened our bond beyond anything we'd shared over her craft table years before. I'd bring her favorite tea, sit for hours, and handle small tasks, adjusting pillows, reading her emails. She told stories of her younger days running a handmade crafts business to support her family after Grandpa passed. "Never let anyone control your money," she whispered, voice firm despite the monitor's beeping. I took it to heart, managing my freelance income carefully and putting her care above new gigs. My parents were nowhere to be seen, only calling occasionally to ask about her condition. My brother, true to form, made one appearance. He breezed into the hospital, all charm and no substance, pitching a half-baked idea for a fashion app he swore would go viral. Flashing a grin, he asked Grandma Dorothy for a loan. Just a few grand, he said, as if her hospital bed were a bank counter. She shut him down with a look, invest in something real. He left sulking, never to return. While I balanced work and visits, I noticed Grandma Dorothy holding private meetings with my aunt and a lawyer. They hushed their voices when I entered papers, quickly shuffled aside. I didn't pry, trusting her judgment. One evening, after a long day of client revisions, she called me close. "Allison," she said, gripping my hand, "you're the one who gets it. Freedom comes from standing on your own." I nodded, unsure what she meant, but her eyes held a secret. Later, I learned she'd been working with my Aunt Evelyn and her lawyer, Mr. Hayes, to set up a trust fund in my name. She planned it meticulously, ensuring her savings, built from decades of selling quilts and scarves, would go to me, not my parents or brother. She never mentioned the amount, only that it was enough to give you a start. I brushed it off, more focused on her recovery than money. As her condition worsened, I leaned on my design work to cope. I sketched late at night, turning briefs into logos and ads, my laptop glowing in the dim waiting room. It kept me grounded, a reminder I could handle whatever came. Their absence weighed on me. Mom sent a single text, "Keep us posted," while Dad claimed he was too busy with work. My brother, meanwhile, was posting photos from a Vegas trip, likely funded by their latest bailout. I swallowed my anger and focused on Grandma Dorothy. She'd squeeze my hand, saying, "You're stronger than they know." Her words carried me through sleepless nights, client deadlines, and the ache of seeing my family's indifference. The trust fund was her final act of faith. With Evelyn and Mr. Hayes, she locked it down using legal clauses I didn't understand at the time. They met in her hospital room, signing documents while I stepped out for coffee. Evelyn later pulled me aside, her voice low. "Your grandma's making sure you're set," she said, her eyes kind but serious. I didn't ask for details, too consumed with keeping Dorothy comfortable. When she drifted off one night talking about her old craft fairs, I promised myself I'd make her proud. Her illness wasn't just a loss, it was a wake-up call, sharpening my focus on my career and my independence, no matter what my family did next. After Grandma Dorothy's passing, Dad texted me to meet at a lawyer's office in downtown Boise for a family meeting. The message was abrupt, just an address and time, and it set my nerves on edge. I arrived at the sleek office, its glass walls stark, the polished floors gleaming coldly under fluorescent lights. Mom sat rigid with her laptop open, fingers twitching. My brother lounged, scrolling his phone with a smug grin. Dad paced with his jaw tight, avoiding my gaze. The tension was thick, as if they were guarding a secret I wasn't meant to uncover. I settled into a chair, my design portfolio bag at my feet, bracing for whatever they had arranged. Mom launched into a speech about settling Grandma's estate, her tone unnaturally formal. Her laptop screen flickered, showing an email supposedly from Mr. Hayes, the lawyer who had set up Grandma's trust. It listed a code to access her funds, but the design was sloppy off fonts, a pixelated logo. My years crafting visuals for Boise businesses made the forgery obvious. "That doesn't look right," I said, leaning in. Mom slammed the laptop shut, her eyes narrowing. "It's legitimate," she snapped, though her voice trembled. My brother chuckled, muttering, "Chill, it's fine." Their reactions only confirm the deceit. When Mom stepped out for a call, I seized the chance. The laptop was still unlocked, the email open. A quick glance confirmed my suspicion. The sender's address mimicked Mr. Hayes's, but came from a generic domain, not his firm. It was a crude attempt to break into Grandma's trust. I took a photo with my phone before Mom returned, then excused myself to the restroom, my thoughts racing. Later, when Dad left his laptop unattended during a coffee break, I hesitated, Then tried his old password, unchanged, predictably careless. His inbox exposed a damning trail emails from a creditor detailing my brother's debts over $100,000 from his failed fashion app. There were unpaid vendor invoices, defaulted loans, and a lease for an abandoned office. Another message from his ex, Corey Miller, stood out. "He's out of control," Corey wrote, listing the excess's lavish dinners, a rented yacht designer suits. "He's bleeding you dry," the email warned. I captured screenshots, my hands steady despite the anger boiling inside. This wasn't recklessness. It was a deliberate grab for Grandma's money. That night, I reached out to my colleague Denise Carter, a wizard at uncovering online trails from our Boise startup work. I asked her to dig into my brother's social media. She moved fast, sending screenshots of his posts, casino nights in Vegas, a flashy watch, a Miami club scene, all dated after Grandma's death. "He's hinting at a big windfall," Denise messaged, linking one of his captions about scoring big soon. It clicked. They meant to use the forged code to drain the trust, paying off his debts while cutting me out. Back at my apartment, I spread the screenshots across my desk, fitting the pieces together. Mom and Dad weren't just enabling my brother, they were orchestrating the theft, betting I'd stay silent. The fake email, the hidden debts, their guarded glances at that office all pointed to the betrayal Grandma Dorothy had warned me about. "Never let anyone control your money," she'd said, her voice echoing in my mind. I wasn't the overlooked kid anymore. With evidence in hand, I was ready to dismantle their scheme and protect what Grandma had entrusted to me. Back at the meeting, I stayed composed as they pushed me to divide the trust. Mom leaned across the polished table, her voice heavy with manufactured concern. "Your brother deserves a fresh start," she said, glancing at him as he slouched, smirking at his phone. Dad nodded, layering on counterfeit earnestness. "It's only fair we use Grandma's funds to get him back on his feet." Back on his feet? The words nearly made me scoff. I'd seen proof of his extravagance: rented convertibles, private jet trips to Aspen, bespoke jackets paraded online. Their pitch was a scripted appeal crafted to guilt me into handing over what Grandma Dorothy had left me. I sat back, my design portfolio bag beside me, letting them spin their story, waiting for my moment. Mom pressed harder, portraying my brother as a visionary struck by misfortune. "He just needs a little help to launch his next project," she said, her eyes flicking to Dad for backup. He added, calling it a family duty to settle his debts. My brother muttered about a revolutionary startup, his arrogance intact. I let their arguments pile up, fragile as a tower of stacked cards. Then I spoke, my voice even. "What about the convertibles, the Aspen trips, the custom suits?" Their faces stiffened. Mom's lips parted soundlessly. Dad shifted, clearing his throat, while my brother's smirk faded, his phone sliding to the table. I pressed further, pulling out my phone to display the screenshot of their forged email. "This code isn't from Mr. Hayes," I said, locking eyes with Mom. "It's a fake designed to break into Grandma's trust." The room froze, panic hanging like smoke. Mom stammered, "You're wrong," her hands twisting at her sleeve. Dad tried to cover, muttering about a clerical mistake, but I cut through. "I checked with the bank," I said, my tone cold. "The account's down to $1 locked after your unauthorized attempt." That was my trump card. The bank's security flagged their move a safeguard Grandma's lawyer had arranged. I'd confirmed it with Mr. Hayes's office before walking in, ensuring the trust was sealed tight. Their veneer shattered. Mom's voice sharpened, insisting they were protecting the family as if fraud were noble. Dad jumped in, words spilling, claiming my brother's debts left them no alternatives. My brother, trapped, lashed out. "You're selfish, clinging to Grandma's money." Selfish? I had scraped my way through college with freelance jobs while he squandered cash on luxuries. I stayed steady, letting their desperation expose their lies. "The bank's tracing the attempt," I said, watching their eyes widen. "They've logged every move you made." That was no bluff. Mr. Hayes had confirmed the investigation was underway. Mom shifted again, her tone melting into desperation. "We're family, Allison. Let's work this out together." I shook my head. "Family doesn't conspire to steal." Dad sagged his argument spent while my brother glared, muttering curses. Their scheme lay in ruins. Grandma Dorothy's trust secured by her foresight, and Mr. Hayes's planning was beyond their reach. I stood slinging my bag over my shoulder. "We're done here," I said, walking out, their stunned silence pressing at my back. Years of their favoritism and betrayal had led to this moment. I wasn't just guarding the trust, I was honoring Grandma's legacy, turning their deception back on them with the truth. My parents threatened, "Don't touch the trust fund." I smiled and asked, $50 each. After the confrontation, my family filed a lawsuit, unaware that the trust was ironclad. Mom, Dad, and my brother hired a lawyer, claiming they deserved a share of Grandma Dorothy's estate, arguing her will was misinterpreted. I sat in the Boise courtroom, my hands steady, as Mr. Hayes, Grandma's trusted lawyer, took the stand. His silver hair glinted under the lights as he presented the trust's documents, airtight provisions outlining every safeguard Grandma had set in place. My Aunt Evelyn, her calm presence reflecting Grandma's resolve, testified about Dorothy's final wishes, supported by notarized statements from years earlier. Their evidence was irrefutable. The trust was mine alone, crafted to shield me from this very kind of greed. The judge dismissed the case in under an hour, citing the unmistakable intent in Grandma's paperwork. My family's faces fell, their confidence shattered. The fallout was swift. Without access to the trust, their financial house of cards collapsed. Mom and Dad filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, a last resort that erased their savings but not their debts. Their Boise home, a sprawling suburban relic of better days, was sold at auction to cover unpaid loans. The bank repossessed their cars, a sleek SUV, and my brother's leased convertible, leaving them dependent on public transit. My brother's creditors, emboldened by the failed lawsuit, pursued him relentlessly, garnishing what little income he scraped together from odd jobs. Their social circle unraveled too. Neighbors once eager for Mom's book club invitations turned cold when whispers of their fraud attempt spread. Distant relatives who'd long admired Grandma Dorothy's integrity stopped returning their calls. The isolation stung them, a public shaming they couldn't escape. I watched from a distance, my resolve firm. Their lawsuit wasn't just a failed gambit, it was a final betrayal, proof they'd never valued me. I blocked Mom's number after her first pleading text, a hollow apology laced with excuses. Dad's calls went unanswered, his voicemails deleted without a listen. My brother sent a single message accusing me of ruining them, which I ignored. Cutting them off wasn't impulsive, it was deliberate, a boundary to protect my peace. I changed my email, locked down my social media, and moved to a new apartment in Boise's North End, its quiet streets a fresh start. Her lessons echoed in my mind: control your choices, not their chaos. I wasn't running from them, I was building a life they couldn't touch. The trust untouched by their schemes became my foundation. Mr. Hayes ensured its funds were secure, wired to a new account only I could access. I used a portion to expand my design business, renting a small studio downtown. My portfolio grew, landing contracts with Boise startups, and even a regional ad campaign. Evelyn checked in occasionally, her support a quiet anchor, but I leaned on my own strength, just as Grandma had taught me. My family's downfall was self-inflicted, a consequence of years chasing my brother's reckless dreams. I felt no guilt, only clarity. Their choices had carved their path just as mine shaped my future. A year later, I turned pain into purpose. With Grandma Dorothy's trust secure, I launched the Dorothy Walsh Financial Empowerment Fund, a nonprofit to honor her legacy. From a modest Boise office, I organized workshops at community centers, guiding young people on how to budget, save, and protect their finances from overreaching relatives. I stood before groups of teens and 20-somethings, sharing practical tools, tracking expenses, opening secure accounts, and saying no to family demands without guilt. One evening, a shy college student lingered after a session, asking how to handle a parent draining her savings. I saw my younger self in her, the ache of being overlooked. Set firm boundaries, I advised, handing her a guide I'd written, inspired by Grandma's mantra: money is a tool, not a toy. My work drew me closer to Brenda Foster, a local financial advisor who'd known Grandma through her craft markets. Brenda, with her warm laugh and sharp insights, became a mentor guiding me as I structured the fund's programs. Over coffee, she reviewed budgets and suggested ways to reach more kids in Boise's underserved neighborhoods. My colleague Denise Carter joined us too, her knack for digital marketing boosting our visibility. She had once helped me uncover my brother's reckless posts. Now she designed vibrant flyers and managed our online presence, drawing even larger crowds. Together, we built a network of support, a stark contrast to the family I'd left behind. Their encouragement grounded me proof that chosen connections could outweigh blood ties. My days were full balancing the fund with my design business. I rented a studio downtown, its walls lined with sketches for local campaigns, restaurant menus, boutique logos, even a mural for a Boise festival. The trust gave me stability, but my own hustle kept me thriving. I'd wake early sketching ideas before heading to workshops where I taught teens to avoid the traps I had faced. Evelyn, my aunt, stopped by occasionally, her quiet pride a steady anchor. She'd bring stories of Grandma's resilience, reminding me why I'd started this. Mr. Hayes, the lawyer, offered pro bono advice to keep the fund legally sound, ensuring its mission stayed untouchable, just like Grandma's trust. The past stayed buried. I hadn't heard from Mom, Dad, or my brother since blocking their numbers. Their downfall, bankruptcy, lost home. Severed ties lingered only as a distant echo, the price of their choices. I didn't dwell on it, focusing instead on the life I was building. My workshops grew, filling rooms with eager faces, each one a chance to pass on Grandma's wisdom. One night, as I packed up after a session, a participant thanked me, saying she'd opened her first savings account. Her smile mirrored the hope I'd found in myself, a reminder that I had turned betrayal into something meaningful. Looking back, I learned hard truths. Protecting your finances and your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. Grandma Dorothy showed me that strength lies in standing firm even against those closest to you. Family isn't defined by blood but by respect, by people who lift you up, not tear you down. Brenda and Denise became that for me, their support, a steadier foundation than the one I'd lost. My story, born from pain, carries a lesson for anyone listening. Guard your worth. Choose your circle wisely and build a life that honors your truth. That's the legacy I carry forward, one workshop, one saved dollar, one empowered choice at a time.